Hello and welcome to Life is Cellular, the podcast where we discuss ways to push the boundaries of cell theory that is central to the study of life. I'm your host, Zainab.
And I'm your co-host, Isabel. For today's episode, we'll be talking about what makes a cell have life. And fortunately for us, we have two guest stars who happen to be legit biologists. To help us out, let's welcome Joshua and Matthew.
Yes, to prove I am legit, I have a fact. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and we know animals don't have chloroplasts.
Thank you for the introduction, and hello, I'm Matthew, and as a biologist, yes, that is the correct fact.
Oh, wow.
Oh, good to know.
So let's talk about cells. We know it's the smallest, most basic unit of life, but what makes it that?
Well, like us, cells have DNA. It's an inherited genetic code to direct structure, function, and the behavior of every cell.
Right, and with the right technology, we can even push the boundaries of cell theory by putting synthetic DNA into another cell devoid of its genetic material.
Oh, wow, that's another way to learn about life.
Yeah, it's interesting. So what makes a cell anyways? Like, what needs to be, copied if you were to create life from existing life?
Well, scientists such as ourselves believe the plasma membrane was one of the first events to occur. It is a barrier separating a cell from its external environment, which is one of the most critical functions of the plasma membranes of a cell.
Well, what's inside the membrane?
You know what? That's a good question. There are certain transport proteins that allow molecules to move in and out of the cell.
Oh, isn't there like a passive transport called diffusion?
Yeah, I read about it. It helps movement of a substance from a region of higher concentration to one of a lower concentration.
Yes, this is a form of osmosis. Since water moves in and out of cells, it's critical for cellular processes because most cells are about 70% water, and almost all cellular processes take place in a water-rich environment.
Yeah, and don't cells need to maintain a stable internal water concentration to function properly?
Pretty much, and also receptor proteins, they're basically key components of cells' communication systems, which basically enables it to respond appropriately to changes in its surroundings.
That reminds me, how does the cell know how to respond to the immune system if someone gets sick?
Well, they use phagocytosis, which is used by specific cells to ingest an entire bacterium or virus.
Well, thank you, phagocytosis, for helping me beat my cold. Seriously, everyone, it's so cold out now. Make sure to wear a sweater to avoid getting sick. Ha ha ha.
As most of us hopefully know, all cells are made of certain organic molecules. These are called nucleic acids, proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids.
Oh yeah, and nucleic acids and proteins are related to each other, right? Since nucleic acids store and expresses genomic information, basically the DNA encodes the information cells to make proteins.
Yeah, exactly. Proteins replicate and transcribe DNA. Carbs provide energy for the cell to survive, and lipids control what goes in and out of the cell. They all basically help the cell function.
All of that is fascinating. Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, thank you to our biologists, Matthew and Joshua, for helping us out today. I think this was a great segment that helped us get to know the identities and function of cells.
Of course, no problem.
Thanks for having us on your podcast.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys
Next
time.
one. Yay!
Thank you all for watching our Life is Cellular podcast today. Here's a recap about what we talked about with Josh and Matthew.
Today we learned about how cells are the most basic unit of life and how they are made up of DNA, which is the function and behavior of every cell.
We also learned how the plasma membrane is a barrier that separates a cell from its external environment, which was really interesting to learn about with Josh.
Oh yeah, and Matthew also taught us about the transport proteins inside the plasma membrane that move different molecules from in and out of the cell.
I think the last main point we discussed overall with Matthew and Josh was that cells were made up of lipids, proteins, nucleic acids, and carbohydrates.
Yeah, we talked about how proteins replicate and transcribe, carbs provide energy for the cell and to survive, and lipids control what goes in and out of the cell.
And I think that concludes our recap of our Life is Cellular podcast.
Thank you all for watching. Till next time.